Strike.
I
There it is.
I
We're
got
live.
to
All
read.
right. Here we go. Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Pop Culture Analysis Forum, the first panel of the first Wink Creative Conference. Okay, so this panel is going to center the work our panelists are doing both to create and support pop culture, especially internet online. So the first thing I kind of want to get us started talking to, I want to keep it light beat. I want to keep it upbeat. So I wanted to talk about like the things you like about your careers, why you still are doing what you're doing, maybe how long you've been doing to illustrate why you're still doing what you're doing. Give us your faves about being a creative professional. And we can, anyone can start. Anyone can have it. Don't make me pick. Don't make me be like the teacher. Do I have to be like the teacher?
You may need to pick. You may need to pick.
Oh, Jay,
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah.
Star pupil. There you go.
So I think for me, very early, like we established our podcast as one that is working to dismantle white supremacist patriarchal capitalism one episode at a time, right? So because we are independent, because we state our goals, I think that I can still enjoy a lot of the pop culture shit that I like. I can talk about what I like. I can talk about what I don't like. I'm not beholden to any larger entity. I don't have to dedicate episodes worth of content to why I'm not being welcomed, accepted, why the doors aren't open for me. I can do what I do and do it how I like to do it. And so that's why I still love it. My heart goes out to a lot of people who have to navigate or choose to navigate that whole the doors are not being open for me, I'm not being granted a seat at the table kind of thing, and really just thrive in enjoying what it is that I do. And I think that also has to do with like what you establish your goals are. If your goal is to be, I don't know, can we curse here? If your goal is to be that nigga, it might be heartbreaking, you know what I'm saying, that you are not being granted the space that we deserve at the table. So I think for me, a part of why I still enjoy what I'm doing is because I'm independent and my goal is not necessarily to be seen as that nigga. My goal is to enjoy myself. My goal is to dismantle the system as I am critiquing properties, as I am, creating content. And so that's why I'm still in it. That's why I still love it. But I am curious to hear what everybody else has to say.
All right. Next.
I could play off that a little bit because not like on a similar vibe with Black Comics Chat. Like I keep a foot in each, right? Like some of it is door opening, some of it is fuck the doors. And in a way, like as an independent culture critic, you can sort of like democratize everything. Like we can give equal amount of time to somebody who's a big two comics writer as we can to the person who's like launching their first ever Kickstarter project. There's something like really special and valuable about that. And that notion, I feel, has bled into pop culture criticism as a whole, because I feel like now more than ever, definitely more than like 20 years ago when I was younger, there's like a totally independent, no budget project that is getting some of the same marquee space that other like larger projects are. Of course, there's going to be more, news trash about like whatever somebody tweeted and whatever. But the fact that they can still like command a certain set of eyes on a page every day, or the fact that a writer without a published credit to their name can still command an hour and a half of Black Comics Chat time, as well as David Walker or anybody else, is a really like special facet. Is sort of, I think, an exposure of potential evolution in independent cultural criticism. So that's good. I feel very positive about that. I'm adding. We're going to start with some optimism from me, and then like the rest of this panel's not going to be as optimistic. I'm sure
we're going to get into that, right? Because we're looking at your work and your experiences, so we're definitely going to get to the anti of this. Don't worry about that.
I think, like for me, what I like is, I've become very cynical. So I think I have more anti than not, but I think what I've enjoyed is I've learned to actually create boundaries for myself and say, this industry has helped me do that, and saying, no, I'm not going to do that. Yes, I'm going to do this. And I think it has helped me realize, that there are certain things that I just don't give a fuck about. And I just sort of choose to just do what I want to do the way I want to do it. And there's a certain freedom in learning, as I've gone along this trajectory, learning how to sort of network and deal with folks. And I really like the networking aspect, especially that it's brought me out of my shell a little bit more. And I've been able to travel and gotten opportunities I otherwise wouldn't have gotten if it weren't for this industry. And being a journalist has led me to become a better writer, working with good editors. And it has, put me on another trajectory to go on to, screenwriting and creating comics and stuff like that. So I do like the things that I have learned and the people that I have met in the industry.
Yeah, I want to echo what Val's saying. I think that's been incredibly important for me with For All Nerds and all the opportunities we've had. Like, even in this panel alone, have these people I've known for many years, and through all of the events and through the press press events and critiques and everything that we've done together, and to be able to have that wealth of creativity and that wealth of knowledge, and to be able to broaden the perspectives across pop culture, across geek culture, across so many different various facets of entertainment. I just think it's been incredibly powerful. It's been incredibly enlightening for me. And then also it has really contributed to the growth of our brand. And it's also just contributed to having us be that mic for indie creatives, for established creatives as well, but also give everyone a platform to give you a broader perspective on the pop culture space. So I definitely just want to definitely agree with what Val just said about that in terms of the fellowship really that I've gotten from this space and all the people that I've met. And then also towards that, the opportunity I was received, like perceived and otherwise, because as everyone knows, yes, there are barriers. Yes, there are still things that we fight against within this industry. At the same time, I've come to a point, especially through talking with other people and learning this space, about how you have to create your own opportunities. Lots of times we create it by doing our own media spaces. As Janisha mentioned, you make your own space. As Leo mentioned, F the doors. Sometimes you have to create on your own. You have to make your own opportunities. And in being that bold and doing it out of necessity, you often create new avenues and new lanes for yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo off that too. I think everyone, I think we've all experienced the same thing regarding this, the pop culture and access and everything. And I remain in it because the connections I've made, the friendships I've made. And, I feel like, because I think a lot of us here, we voice our opinions. And the thing is, there is a little bit changes being made. It's not perfect, but we see little by little, they are like, studios are starting to listen. They're starting to build inclusion programs. It's also like they're recognizing, like, we need these people. Some outlets are like recognizing we need these people of color on our team because their perspective is important. And I feel like I've gotten a lot of freelancing gigs because of that too, because they were like, well, we want your perspective on this. And the thing is, that's another thing for the negative side about pigeonholing, but it presents opportunity to see people's writing and people's style. So I feel like, like me, I'm still in this because I do see the changes being made, because I've been in this writing for like over 10 years, like 12 years. And, I see the groups like the Nerds of Color, like Geeks of Color, off color, like a whole bunch of these groups, like, they've been really pushing out there and put in their perspectives. And I think studios and places, PRs are listening. And that's why I'm like, yeah, we gotta be consistent with this. I'm gonna keep going because I just love seeing that change.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the best parts. I think one of my favorite things is honestly like participating in panels and putting on panels, because you get a group of amazing people that I've gotten to meet over the years and have them talking about all this cool stuff that they know and all this knowledge. And the best part is finding people that are just hearing about these projects or these creators or whatever specific bit of knowledge someone has tossed out, and just seeing the community that ends up building. And that's really why I kind of stick to it, because I feel like that kind of community is what people need, what people are looking for. And I mean, like many of you have said, I've known several of you for multiple years now, and it's probably like one of the best parts of it. And just consistently getting to introduce people to these spaces and to my friends and showing off all their amazing works. I mean, it really doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, I want to piggyback what Alexis was saying. I really love the fact that we're able to create community. And for me, what I enjoy the most is carving out that little niche that Black Comic Chat has by being on Twitch and watching old cartoons and just, sometimes taking a dump on them. And then just really sort of getting together with the folks and just being able to analyze where we have been in terms of animation and where we are now, being able to, connect with folks who are doing a Kickstarter who need that help. I love that. I love being able to meet new folks, several folks that I've met here, several I haven't had a chance to in person, but it's the constant connection and really sort of showing the audience that there's more than just what we would consider main pop culture.
Angelique, you're just joining us, so we're thank you for joining us. And we're answering the question. We're trying to start on a positive beat of our favorite things. So we're going to be focusing on the work you do to create and support pop culture. And the question is what? Give us your faves about being a creative professional.
Oh, man. One, I am very sorry. I was on the phone with one of my bosses hearing old comic book stories from the 90s, and you just really don't stop someone telling those stories that you can't find anywhere else. And so my deepest apologies. In fact, we were talking about a couple of scripts and talking about a couple books and collections and, man, my favorite thing, that's really hard. I've been really blessed over the last 3 years to host a show called Marvel's Voices that has expanded now into what is insanely intense brand of stuff that there's so much stuff I can't even talk about. But, many of you who are here have either been a part of it or have been on panels or are 1 degree separated from folks or have been huge supporters of Marvel's Voices. We just announced Marvel's Voices Community that day yesterday, which is like, was a dream last year that I didn't know it was going to happen. But, outside of Marvel, like I really have, the favorite thing, the thing that I love about my job actually comes from my background in politics. And as a lawyer and a journalist, honestly, is I get to talk to creatives about why they're creatives, why they keep doing this, and their stories that at times, even some of the people that we think are like the biggest celebrities, and of course they understand that the work they do is important to other people, they've never thought about it in that way before, right? Like, I've had the privilege of being the first Comic-Con interview for a number of folks who you would be surprised that they've never done a Comic-Con panel before. And, my interviews are 30 to 45 minutes long. So it's not a 15-minute, I'm just asking you, tell me about the movie, what can you tell me? Which I get to do too, but like, I'm really blessed to be able to go, why do you do this? What is the thing you brought to it? What is the thing about your work that made you choose this role? What do you hope this role has an impact? And particularly when, it is artists of color and being able to highlight their experience, particularly when it's queer artists of color, and being to highlight their experience, like it makes people look at them differently, which makes the possibilities for the next folks coming down the line different. And so it's just always really great for me to be able to do that. And man, get to have fun in my fandom, right? And get to like bring folks like Tatiana and Val and Alexis into stuff when people give me ops, right? Because that's what this really is, right? It's a team because y'all have done the same thing for me. And we've all been kind of here writing for a while. I was on the DL for a while under a pseudonym, which I won't say right now, but I've been in this game a little longer than I think people think I have. But
we need the burner account. We need the burner account.
Let's just say when you work for the United States,
you know those secret thoughts.
Look, let's just say when you work in the U.S. Senate, you are not supposed to be a journalist at the same time writing other stuff.
Okay, all right,
So
got you.
a number
I
of
got
those
you.
articles are long gone on websites that are no longer available.
Okay, got it.
But
no
yeah,
juicy bits we couldn't have found from another source then. Okay.
If you ever find an article by Rubique Ogden, good luck. But that's it's long gone.
I thought we were going to experience a little bit of FOMO, but I think we're good. You guys have such joys in the things you do. Oh my God, don't pay attention to that. So my next question was going to be, you know, when doing it for the culture becomes a career, how do you maintain, how do you sustain, how do you continue to grow? You know, I'm sure there's plateaus, there's glass ceilings, there's walls there. So tell me about that, like getting here and growing from here, because I think all you guys are very successful people in my book. I look up to all of you. So swing, bada, swing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's very humbling. I feel like I'm still in that growth stage, particularly. I mean, this is something, it's a daily thing in terms of growing and getting, and I mentioned getting opportunities and things like that, but really just having gaining that space for more awareness, right? So for some people, some of their goals are just going mainstream, right? Some people is just getting a larger audience or getting outside of speaking to the choir, right? So I know for me, it's about finding people smarter than me and more well-versed with different acumens and spaces that I'm not necessarily as strong or aware of. And again, maybe that goes back a little bit to the whole fellowship stuff. Like even talking to people like within this group, for example, for ideas or understanding of how something works, finding people to join our team that have, as I mentioned, just better acumen in certain spaces or just different opinion or different approach, because is one thing you don't want to do is be in the echo chamber of yourself. Even if you work with someone, you don't want to be stuck in the echo chamber of each other. Sure, that's great from a content and creative perspective when you're having like a certain thing to do, but when you're talking about growing a brand or growing a platform or whatever, like you need to bring in some outside help. So I think for me that it's been, and it still continues to be a great journey of building that team behind us, really, because for me, I'm just as strong as my team, right? There's so many different things that I can't do all on my own. And I've learned throughout just my own personal growth that it's good to delegate. It's good to not have so much put on your own shoulders. And it's so much better to really engage in someone who has a different point of view and has other ideas to then you can infuse within your own platform. And I just feel like you have a much greater sense of understanding and you really end up in a better path when you do it that way. That's my experience.
I think growth. It's funny because for me, the growth has been at first, I don't know how to explain this without sounding like an asshole, but I think I really cared a lot for the industry as a whole and making change and trying to make changes on a larger scale. But I realized that the growth had to start with me first. And that was why, and, I've examined this, time and time again, and I realized that that's why I kept burning out. I was, trying to lead the charge and trying to lead all of these people to change. And it was turning out to be really thankless. And I was getting absolutely zero in return. And when I started to turn the tables on myself, I started to see success quickly, which I thought was really strange. Because it was like, well, I thought that, giving out energy, I get back threefold, but it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes you got to work on yourself. And I think when I started to do that, that's when I really started to see growth and results. And then I was able to help others incrementally. You need a contact, you need this, you need that. And other people reaching out to me with opportunities. So realizing that focusing on myself was the best thing. And one thing I don't regret about, seeing the community as a whole is, again, like Tatiana mentioned, like fellowships, like this whole panel is people that I met at the very beginning of my career. Like back in 2017 when I don't know, I had just met Jamie Broadnax and also like I wasn't even writing for Black Girl Nerds at the time, but I had met most of you already. And, you know, building that, each one of you in your own way has been like, why don't you just focus on yourself? And I'm like, but, you know, I'm doing all this work because I want change for everybody. But you got to change yourself first. So I think that's where the growth has come from.
Yeah. Going off of that, yeah, like one thing, like focusing on yourself and like also realizing that certain spaces, as much as you give to them and like try to help them in whatever way you can, you're not going to get that same energy back. Not all spaces are for you, and they're going to take, and you might, you know, in the moment you might think you're doing really well with them or whatever it is, but they're not going to give you that same energy back. They're not going to invest the same time and building that relationship with you as you think they should or would hope for, at least. So it's also like one thing I've definitely learned is giving your energy to the people that deserve it and will give the same back, and not expecting something from them, but it's kind of this like trust that you will get the same back from them. And I mean, that's really what has helped me grow, because like Valerie said, like I've met a lot of you right at the beginning of like Latinx Geeks as a whole, like at our first Wink convention back in, when was it? Yeah, I think like 2017 or something like that. I mean, that's when I met Leo and Anthony. And that was really, we were like maybe 4 months in of building like Latinx Geeks. So it really is just taking your energy and placing it where it belongs, where it will be appreciated, and, you know, just growing from there, which has been very helpful.
Yeah, like I mean, first of all, I don't think I've begun to succeed, so I don't know if I'm qualified to answer this question, but I can sort of like transplant, like, I think some important lessons that I've observed from the fact that, you know, much like what Val's working on right now, we've had some really effective, inspiring stories of journalists and culture critics becoming creators. And I think part of like what we do, like just by default, is very windmill tilting at windmills type shit, because we are in the trenches of it, and we write or produce or comment or express something that we feel could be like industry transforming, and it won't be, which is no shade on us, but it won't be, because that's not really how like these big machines shift course. But you know, like a Ta-Nehisi Coates or like a Cheo Hodari Coker, like these people who were like former journalists who are now like in the mix and creating stuff. I look at those as an important inspiration and as something of an end goal to this. I mean, I'm not saying, I don't think like you have to create stories to like generate worth, but I think it's really vital that the individuals, people on this panel and beyond, who are perceptively making those observations, crafting them, thinking about this, and helping other people think about this, do get into something of a creative mindset. That is like an important end goal for at least a percentage of us, because I feel like that's going to be more effective than like a scathing viral article, which can be effective. We've seen that. not pooping on that at all, but like I see that as part of my personal journey, and I think it's important for us to like consider that. Yeah, consider storytelling. Consider being a storyteller.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to add to it. I think for me, it's, you know, folks know I do a number of things for a number of different people. It's knowing what and this is going to sound so bad, and I want people to understand what I'm saying, is knowing what your role is on the team that you're playing at that time. Because like for me, like I used to very much do a lot more articles, a lot more reviewing, and now I'm doing much more editing, right? Like I am helping to find folks get into places, and then I'm like, how do we get this like where it needs to be? Like, how are we doing the placement? Who are we bringing in? Who are the folks? I'm like on the phone going, who are the people you watching? Like, tell me who that is. And like, for me, that's my creative part. Like, how do we find placements for folks? Because again, like Tatiana said, like delegation, you can't do everything, but you can be out here asking folks, talking to folks, seeing who people are reading, seeing who people are watching, like who's on the radar. And then really, like, honestly, like I can't emphasize how much editors like, yo, be nice to your editor, get an editor, consider being an editor. Like, that is like, and whether it is a copy editor, whether it is a substance editor, whether it is a structural editor, whether it's a soundboard for your people, that's not just you sustaining, that's them sustaining. Because when it comes to creativity and parameters, particularly when you're either working for a house or working for yourself, like, yes, you can be brilliant, and yes, you can be the most creative mind in the world, but everybody needs an editor. And for me, that's been my creative outlet. Like one of my pride and joys is being a consulting editor, right? Being a person who's editing these essays and making sure what Alexis is trying to say is what comes across on the paper, because that's how we sustain it as a community, because that's what will make the piece a success. Like, you know, it is one thing for us to be out here, particularly saying what we got to say. It's another thing for folks to hear what we have to say, right? And so I think for me, that's really been my love, like my pride and joy, like the thing that fills my cup is to see, you know, Preeti Chipper's article go up. You know, it's seeing like this article that's coming out from Terry Blass that's about to come out next week, like being where it needs to be, and him being really excited about that piece, because then he's going to share it, and then that amplifies the importance of these voices being out there. And so I just, you know, that, and just again understanding your role. It's not my role to write the piece. Like, I'm not responsible for that, because if I try to write the piece and edit the piece, I'm gonna be burnt. Like, I can't do both.
An editor will save your life literally and figuratively.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
thank you for your service,
Yes.
Angelique.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I kind of wanted to say that, you know, what maintains me is just being able to, I guess, measure what I would consider success. Success looks different for everybody. So, you know, success could be, okay, well, I wrote an article or two this year, I'm good. Or I finally got this comic out this year, I'm good. It's not measuring your success against someone else's, because that's where you are going to really have difficulty. Every podcast that's represented here, or every outlet, is different and does different things. And we're not competing with each other, which is important, because we are all at our different levels of success. And I think that has maintained me, that has allowed me to sort of calm myself down as to what I feel I can do. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I want to say in terms of that.
Just real quick, I wanted to add to that. I use the analogy of a laundromat. There's 20 laundromats in the same town, right? And everyone's making money. You could have 20 podcasts talking about the same thing, and y'all can all have good opportunities. You can potentially make money and everything else. And I'm really happy you said that. You're not, especially in a space with other marginalized people, you're not competing with the other marginalized people. And don't let these others tell you that you are. You're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say, like, to maintain, like Val said about burnout, it's real. Burnout is extremely, extremely real. And I think you need to be able to step back sometimes, because when we talk about pop culture, especially as a person of color, it becomes too much sometimes. And I think, you know, and especially if there's something that happens in the industry that we like, how they treat people, like certain people, you just feel like just drained all the time, and also outside factors that drain us. And so I think that we, like, to maintain is that you need to step away sometimes, even if it counts for a payday that, you know, you can't, you know, you want to submit a whole bunch, because I'm always pitching all the time. I'm writing fluff pieces for other outlets because I, you know, to maintain too. But sometimes, like, when I'm writing about, like, situations that stop Asian hate, you know, it becomes too much that I have to take a step back, and I have, like, and then during that time, it's like people are asking for, like, we want your opinion on this, and it's like, no, you know, this hurts. And I think that, you know, to maintain and sustain in the career where everything is culture, you need to be able to take a step back, even if it does have, like, if it's a dire paycheck, then I will push I need to do it. But I think you need to know your limits. And I will always, write for a paycheck, but I also know when I need to like take a step back and be like, you know what, I really can't. I'll pitch something else to you guys. I just can't write about this. I can't think about this. And I think that's how I'm able to maintain my career in pop culture, because there's moments I'm like, I need to step back. And that's important too, because if you keep just talking about the trauma and the bad things, it becomes too much. So that's how you can grow as a person.
I love that Laura just said that, because I actually want to connect Laura and Tatiana's ideas. And basically, there was this whole thing floating around in podcasting where everybody was saying the market is flooded, right? So once capitalism touches anything, then we start speaking all this like ridiculous language and jargon, when like each of us have a very unique perspective on all of these very similar topics, right? And so when I think about us as people of color, and those of us of marginalized identities who experience and are often navigating a certain amount of trauma, right? There are certain things that, even though the goal of my podcast is to dismantle white supremacist patriarchal capitalism, I'm not covering every single thing. And I'm thankful that there are other Black people covering topics that people might want my opinion on or whatever, but I'm not covering that. Go listen to such and such. They covered it. It was fantastic. I loved it. And I think that we don't have to cover everything. We don't have to speak on everything. There's value in the fact that like all of us are here, and certain things, certain traumas we don't even have to personally engage with. You know what I'm saying? I think that some of us get really caught up in, and I'm not a huge, I be on Twitter, but I'm not a huge Twitter person. Some of us get caught up in like that high of being involved in the conversation. You know what I'm saying? And I posted something the other day in a private Facebook group to laugh at. It was something traumatic. It was something like Black traumatic, but I posted it in efforts that y'all look at this. This is like ridiculous, right? I put LOLs and I put laughing faces because I'm often laughing at trauma, but so many people it was a traumatic thing, so I don't want to diminish that. But so many people were kind of high-fiving each other over the pain of it all. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't come here into this space, into this moment, to talk about the pain of it all. And I think that it's important that we acknowledge, sometimes we don't even recognize this thing is painful, and we're like reliving trauma and high-fiving each other over trauma and writing about this traumatic thing and looking at this traumatic angle. And there's space for that. There's room for that. It has to be done. But we don't all have to do it. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it's important that we're all in the space, that we're all carrying the weight of these different traumas, of these different burdens, and knowing when is this something that I can engage with that's not going to cause me personal harm, and when is it something that I should step back and let somebody else do, you know? So just in terms of like sustaining yourself, and knowing when to engage and not to engage.
I want to add to that. At the end of the day, a lot of us talk about fandom all the time, and we talk about pop culture all the time. We talk about the stuff that exactly can cause trauma or is trauma inducing, or real life stuff that is trauma inducing. Like, find joy. Like, I'm not like, I think there's something I had to click into about 6 months ago when I realized all the stuff that I was doing, even if it was pop culture, was work. And I just started playing Tomb Raider. Yeah, Tomb Raider is problematic. I get it. I understand it. But I was like, you know what?
Guilty pleasures.
I'm just going to stream all 3 of the Tomb Raiders for no reason at all, except I just want to do it. And I think sometimes we need a reminder that the reason when we got into this is that we love it. And we just need to do it for fun and not for work. And I think that goes in directly what you're saying. You don't have to do everything. Like sometimes I just want to watch Doctor Who because I want to watch Doctor Who and I don't want to have a comment on it, even though again, it's problematic as fuck. So I think just that note is like, there's gotta be, it can't always be work. It can't always be you addressing it. And I love the fact that y'all brought up other people holding the conversation when you have to take a step back.
Alexis, did you want? Okay. Just make.
I wanted to crap. Sorry, I lost it. I'll say it. Oh no. This is what I wanted to say. I'm back in. Scarcity, right? A lot of us, we also have to acknowledge that a lot of us be so afraid not to talk about it because of this idea of scarcity. If I'm not on top of it, people are gonna think I'm not on top of pop culture and I don't know what's happening every second of the day. And if I miss this opportunity to write about this thing, then, this publication or this whatever won't see me. I won't be seen. And there's a hot button issue. I have to get on it now. And a lot of us are harming each other, harming ourselves in the process. And a lot of it's not good. A lot of it's not a good take. You regurgitating a take you heard, or you saying a take that you don't even really believe, or you saying a take that you didn't have time to really let sit and bake before you jump out there. And because people look to you, you harm somebody. You say something ridiculous and people ride for it and you harm people. You know what I'm saying? Or the politic. You know what I'm saying? So there's also this element, because we do sit at many of the margins, many of our intersections have us sitting at the margins. There is this feeling of like, oh my God, if I don't do this right now, or people don't know I'm covering this, then it's not going to be another opportunity to get the bag. It's not going to be enough opportunity to capitalize on followers or whatever, which will lead to a bag. It's like acknowledging that even though we are constantly told there's not enough room for you, or there's only one space for one of you, and we already have a Black one, or we already have a this one or that one or whatever, we have to believe that that's a lie. That's not true. We have to acknowledge that this is a lie that's consistently pumped to us. And we can't fall into this like scarcity model trap that's damaging us, damaging the work that we do, damaging our mental health.
Anjali, can you just repeat what you just wrote in the chat, please? I want people to hear this.
Look, y'all need to we need to come from abundance, yo. Like, that is my 2021 motto. And that, whether it's going to what Laura said about sometimes you got to step back and hand that gig on to somebody else, or because we come from a space of narrative scarcity, which is a real thing. I don't want to dismiss that. We come from a space of time scarcity. We come from you just hit on something. So we always feel like we got to be there. And we have to come from abundance. We have to realize, and Val has had me do this to her several times. Like, yo, I can't talk about this. You got room to talk about this? You got somebody else to talk about this? I can't. Yeah. I can't. I don't have it. Or I'm not the right person. And I think that's the other thing. Like, sometimes you got to acknowledge you are not actually the right person at this time. There is somebody else, and maybe you need to be supporting that person who's doing it. So, I think abundance is.
Yeah, and sometimes, as you said it, Janisa, you said it. You may not have. Well, both of y'all said it. Y'all may not have the right things to say, and also you may not have the knowledge. Like you don't have to hear your own voice all the time. It's like, let people. If you don't really know what's going on, you can sit this one out. It will be okay. No, like real facts. There are way more quote tweets than regular retweets that happen. Yeah. We need way more regular retweets and way less quote tweets.
Yeah, and I will say this, that in order to sustain and grow and stuff, if it doesn't fit you, it's amazing to help your fellow journalists of color. Like, I've been asked to cover things where I was like, this is not a good fit for me, but here are some names that I think would be great for this. And I feel like it helps that if we are able to, because everything's always a competition when it comes to like, oh, you're like, I'm the Asian writer. This is the Black writer. This is the person. And it becomes where we are following what the white entertainment wants us to do, where we're fighting for our lives. Like, oh, we want to cover this, when we should be pushing for, hey, there's more than just one of us. There's multiple of us. And I feel like that's how I feel like we are able to sustain, because if we all grow, if like one of us grows, we all grow. And I feel like if we push, and I feel like if we push for like, hey, this person's great for it. Like, I've been asked to cover stuff that I'm like, I feel like, no, this other person would be a better fit. And I always refer, I have a whole handful of people. I'm like, these people are great, so please contact them. Yeah, I could cover it, but I'm like, I don't feel like you won't get the richness of the narrative, like a rich narrative from me. So I want to give it to someone who will put in the work and like, who will like do this. So give them the paycheck for it. But like, for me, I'm just like, it's about giving it to other people who can, and like people are like, oh, but you like, how will you like get a byline and stuff? I'm like, you know what, it will help all of us, because I know I've had people refer me to stuff that fits me, and I feel like if we build this community, we'll be able to help each other, because it's no matter what, all of us are being attacked, and I feel like we need to come together and push back together.
Yes. Ooh, preach that. Ooh, y'all was all preaching. I feel it. I felt the sermon. I felt the spirit move. I'm feeling y'all. I want us to end positive. I was definitely hearing a lot about community. So but you also touched on some things you don't like about the industry, and I thought that was important to discuss. So, y'all got any pet peeves y'all want to air out? Just forewarning, there'll be a pop quiz later on this. It's a setup.
I do want to say that we are pigeonholed. All of us have been pigeonholed into, we are only able to write about people of our own ethnicity, our own stories. And I feel like we have our perspective, because we are I always feel like I'm pigeonholed to Asian stuff, and I do pitch a lot of Asian stuff too, but I also pitch regular things that that relates to pop culture. And I feel like so often people have this idea like, well, she's the Asian writer, or she's the this writer, that writer. And I feel like I think we need more opportunities to be like, hey, this person actually could write about this. Let's have her do it. Like Doctor Who, we could have a person write about Doctor Who. We could have a person write about other things than just one aspect. And I feel like we all have faced that, where it's like, oh, it's Black History Month, let's find all the Black journalists, instead of year round, or Asian American Month, let's find all the and yes, that's important, but we are also available year round, so we're not just stuck to one we're not stuck to 1 month.
That's a huge among the many pet peeves of mine. But I be cooking up during Black History Month, Pride Month, and all that stuff, and that's fine. But I like to write about stuff too. But to say some specific pet peeves, one thing I just cannot stand. I cannot stand this when let's say, for example, a Black film comes out, right? No Black people, none of us, none of us small fries can get access. They have their chosen few at the chosen articles. Usually, the names and of the people at these places, it starts with Black something or Latin something, just so they can get their quotas and stuff, and put the check mark. But when they send those links out or whatever, and then the white media starts to trash it, now you want to hit me up over and over and over, because you want Black people that you didn't give access to at first to now review it, because you need to be saved. I don't answer those emails, other emails I don't answer. It's like you got an event or a Black event, and you're like, well, you're asking me to disseminate information about something you decided not to invite me to. That's fine. I mean, you could do that. I'm not going to tell anybody about it. You can go to someone else. Maybe that work is for somebody else. It's not for me. Just general things of especially in 2020, where they were like, well, we don't have any more links. The internet ran out of links for your movie or something. Is there a cap on the internet where you couldn't get the bandwidth or something? It's just the small little lies that I have actually just thrown my hands up at a lot of this stuff, because I've had to be fine with that. Also, the hoarding of opportunities and access, it really annoys me. It makes me want to drop kick people, because it's like you have all of those resources and I'm asking you just for an email, and you're like, well, I don't want to ruin my connection with ruin what? You're not going to ruin anything. They need you. They need the Black in front of your outlet. So what's the problem? Why aren't you open to sharing? Because I share every chance that I get, because there were people that shared with me, but there are some people who really have attitudes about sharing, because they are so indoctrinated into whatever, they are the tokens, and they're fine with being that, and they don't want to share. So those are some of the pet peeves. But what has helped me is sort of throwing my hands up, and I'm just kind of whatever comes to me, and whatever else is good, I'll go to the movies to see it, because I won't have to review it and I can enjoy it to enjoy. My focus, like last year, I made the most money I've ever made in this industry because my focus shifted from reviews, and I was writing features and lists and doing interviews, and I really like doing that. So I think I'm putting more of my focus into that, and also exploring like Black indie cinema and doing the things that I like to do, because this was really, and it's really starting like being a film critic has turned into work. And my ADHD brain, when it's time for work, I'm like, I can't even get up the courage to sit and write something because I'm so burnt out or whatever. So I'm trying to, I try to shift the focus to the things that I like to do. So I'm not so cynical. But I'm not going to lie. People hit me up in my DMs all the time and are like, well, how do I get into journalism? I'm like, don't. That may not be the right advice, but I'm like, here's how you can get into it, but here's what you're going to encounter, probably for several years. And then you're going to get burnt down and quit anyway. I don't know. That's not nice. It's probably a negative thing for me to say, but I'm honest, because I don't want people to go through what I went through and have all the pressure put on them. Like people put pressure on me. So sorry, long rant.
No, no. We with you. We with you. Yeah. I mean, just think about things of like having to pay your dues, and then it's like, well, when does that end? When can I secure the bag? Then you gotta, once you know your worth, you gotta build awareness around your worth.
Yeah.
You gotta raise the flags like, yes, I'm worth this much money, and if you ain't coming with that, if you're not down with my rate, then I cannot. So yeah, it's like, and so then you do want to tell people, if you're not out here for scratch, if you ain't ready to fight, this might not be for you.
Well, because the industry
I feel you.
It's so happy with nickel and diming us, giving. I was about to say something not nice, but giving non-people of color, giving white folks like the opportunity to just like sort of excel quickly and fail upward and everything like that. And this goes into the whole idea of scarcity, right? There is no scarcity. There's opportunities for everybody, but they really brainwash you into believing, well, we had her, she's Black, she wrote for us, and it wasn't a great fit, so we're not taking any Black people now. Like, I know these are the conversations that they're having behind the screen and in the off. I know, because I've eavesdropped on some of them. I've heard that, I know what they think. But I guess one of the good things that has come out.
We also have that fear. It's not just what they think. A lot of, like, think about anytime anyone in this group, whatever group you belong to, and they done did something and they mess up. Like, darn, that set us back 10 years. We ain't never gonna get a shot at that. I have grandchildren before we get another shot at that. Yeah. We too have internalized that. So
and I think
that's real. Like, we don't need to know what they're thinking because they've already projected it into us. We think it.
And I think also this goes back to us making sure, and I think Val has done this at an exponential rate. Tatiana has done this. Alexis has done this. Leo, you do this by highlighting people who are doing the work out there. It's about changing that narrative, though. Like, and I know that is like much easier said than done, and I know that is a long process we have all been working on. But like, being in the room when those conversations happen and being that person that is able to say, no, but we should still give this person a chance. That's what changes this. I just had an amazing conversation with Larry Hama. For what you agree with some of the stuff, you don't agree with some of the stuff that Larry Hama has to say. Man is in his 70s. He's great. He's a great dude. But he was like, not to spoil anything that's going to be coming out in my interview with him in Identity, like one of the things he said was like, I asked him, like, did you ever think this book was going to happen where it's nothing but Asian American, Pacific Islander people, one book, all of the characters fit into that bucket. It's going to be like a double comic. And he goes, yeah, because I saw where the artists were coming from. And I knew when those artists became editors, then there was somebody in the room that was changing the conversations and bringing the perspective. Now, the question is, how do we make sure those people don't burn out and then they're no longer in the room and then we backslide? But that's another conversation. And I think, Val, you're right. Like, you have to have someone else in that room that is combating back that conversation and is pushing back what that looks like and is is got the intent, because I think what we're talking about is folks who have the intent to actually diversify in a real, true, genuine way, and not just book somebody because, oh, they're Black, they can write about Black people, right? Oh, they're Pacific Islander, they can write about Black people, and not go, they're from New Zealand. Are they indigenous of New Zealand? like those kind of conversations, right? And so, I forgot the question, but I really wanted to like add in like that's something like we really need to know. It's just like, how do we get more people in that room? And
you're on point,
actually.
Yeah, we're talking about like troubling trends in the industry and in the culture, that type of thing. Your pet peeves.
You do need someone. You do need someone in the industry, because as a freelancer, it's hard to get a gig without having an outlet sometimes. And like but I write for Nerds of Color too, and I love them to death. And they, we have a good PR person who loves us, and she pushes for us. Shout out to IW. They push for us, like with The Conjuring. It's all white people in the movie, but it's like we all love horror movies. People of color love horror movies. We need to and it's like, but why? There's no Asian, like there's no people of color in this movie. Like, and it's kind of like we have to have an advocate for us saying like, hey, no, we want people of color to cover this. We want their voices, because there are people of color who love horror movies. So we should be able to cover this. Give her a screening, or give them a screening. And we need those people to push for us. And I feel like there's not often a lot of PR in the industry who really push for that. And there are a lot that do. Like I do love working with in different ones who do push and do fight for us and talk to us about it. But there are still a lot of limitations because there's not many of them.
I love that Laura brought that up, because I think a lot of times the burden of liberation is often put on the oppressed. So like a lot of us are not gatekeepers, and it's dope when we do gain access, right? And what access we have, we distribute it, we share it, we pull people up. Angelique, I know you've done that. In what little access I've had to things, I've done that. It's really, we do that. In addition to that, it is imperative that white people offer access, open doors. Those who are holding keys, those who are gatekeepers, it's imperative that they change. It's imperative that they do something. Dismantling the system the burden of that should not lie fully on those who are existing at the margins. And so it is imperative that we have advocates who are not just ourselves. We do a lot for each other, and we're going to continue to do that, but it's also important that we demand that those in positions of power, that those who are the gatekeepers change. And I don't care if that happens because they really feel personally in their hearts that it has to happen, or if it happens because they're embarrassed. I don't care why it happens, but that's something that happens. It's a requirement that they make change, in addition to the work that we do to put ourselves in positions to make changes for each other,
Yeah.
Well, can I add to that? Like, yeah, because I feel, and also that kind of plays with what Angelique is talking about in terms of like editorial roles. It's not even just about, it's not as simple as a gate being opened. Like, it's not just the gatekeeping. It's like this whole idea. This is my big pet peeve. This is all I have to contribute every time, especially during Black History Month, especially during, I don't know, your typical annual Marginalized History Month, whatever it may be. Maybe it's Latin American. Maybe we get half of one month, half of the other. I'm still mad about that shit. But the point is that people come out and they put out these things where they're like, look, we're welcoming new freelancers, we're welcoming new writers, we want to diversify our staff. Please, we encourage diverse applicants in this particular thing. But that's nothing. Like, I mean, I could say that I encourage diverse applicants as well. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Diverse applicants aren't restricted from pitching to an outlet when it's not Black History Month. And they're not going to pitch more just because you said so. We need mentorship. We need editors who understand that people are coming in that may not have the experience that some of their white confederates naturally got. And they have to be like, okay, like, we do want to bring you in. You know what? This first piece you submitted, it's not quite up to snuff, but we're going to work through this. We're going to get you there because we know that you can get there. But we do not have that at a wide enough level. There definitely are people. There are editors that I've experienced who were that role. They are in the tiny minority, the people who are willing to put in that kind of work. But that is what we need. Like, gatekeeping, I know, is like a shorthand that we're using, but I know it's not just it's not just opening the gate, because like they'll kick us right out the gate. They'll kick us out at the first opportunity. Like we need mentorship. We need mentorship from white editors and others.
And not support you.
Yeah, they're like, have fun.
Fail, it's your fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's very much that. So.
I could not agree more about mentorship, and I could not agree more about sustainability, because that goes back to equity, not equality. Yes, you are getting an equal amount of people in, but are you giving them the same type of opportunities, the same abilities to fail, the same type of mentorship, and the same type of communication with folks? Like, shout out to folks out, like, there are folks out here in the comic book industry that are mentoring the shit out of people on their own time because they believe in them. And I'm not going to put them on blast. I know several people on this panel know some of those names, and they don't have to. These are highly successful people who are out here giving scripts, spending time, being sounding walls. But they're doing something that is outside of their job because they love it and they want to see their people succeed. Mentorship across the board is something that really needs to happen.
Yeah. I will definitely say what Marquita said earlier, just about like really demanding your worth. I think that's really important, because my pet peeve is a little bit what Val has said about the lies, all the little lies that are always told, especially the stuff about we don't have the budget, we don't have the money. Y'all, money isn't real. They got the money. They always have the money, especially if you're working with a large conglomerate or media house. Like, they always have something they can give you. There's always some type of, if we can do it with $0 and 0 cents and barter our time and our efforts and our talent, I'm sure they can figure something else out. So it's really, for me, it's about, at least from our personal perspective, like, demand your time, demand your worth, and you have to push through the fear. Like, a lot of people are scared. They say, oh, well, if I push back or ask, they offer me $100. If I ask for $110, they might be like, nah, F them. Almost cussed. F them. Like, it's another opportunity will absolutely come. If you are driving in your purpose and doing things the right way, an opportunity will come. And 9 times out of 10, those same people who wanted to nickel and dime you about the $5, $10, they're going to come back tomorrow like, oh, you are that hot girl, or oh, you are that city boy, or whatever. Like, I think it's just so important to understand. And thank you for saying it, Angelique. They need you. Understand that they need you. At the end of the day, they really do. So again, my pet peeve again was the lies, but push back behind that, push beyond that.
I have a question. Like, how do you save? I don't even know if this is like being worded right, but how do you save yourself from selling out? I know there's some people who are susceptible to doing that and saying, and throwing people under the bus so that they can advance, right? Or, trying to get you to change your point of view on something because you should be happy that you're here, right? So, you should do this and that. And like, I've had people reach out to me and ask me to help clients, get, become more favorable to the public because I'm a Black person who can advocate for them. I've had people come to me with other marginalized creators who I don't care for and saying, well, you can help us buy and we'll give you this. And I'm like, no. And I'm like,
well, you have a cosign for sale? Can I buy a cosign from you?
Yeah, I don't have
pretty much.
Like, of course I need the money.
I mean, how much does a cosign cost? I hope it's high, sis.
Are you taking early investors? I
can't. I took $50.
Tell them they can't afford a cosign.
It's like a cameo cosign.
Right. I took $50 an offer for years, and I'm like, I'm selling myself short. And sometimes, like, people have led me to question my worth, and I'm like, am I about to sell out? Like, fine. I will admit sometimes I've worked with some questionable people because I was starving and I needed money.
I think that's the difference, right? Let's get the difference. Let's get on the same page about selling out. Is one thing, like, I think for most of us, like, the idea of a sellout or being unhappy with somebody, working with somebody is more of a ethical issue. than it is like I worked with this person because rent was due and I wasn't trying to be on the street. Okay, no,
Right.
I hate that people do that, where it's like, oh, you want to get paid for your work. Yes, I want to get paid for work. I got bills. I got responsibilities. I'm an adult. It sucks, but here I am, right?
Water and power is not going to take promises and IOUs.
Right. But
sorry,
we're going to run out of time, and I definitely want to get to my last question with you guys, because now that we've addressed the pet peeves, I really want to get in of how do we be the change we want to see in the world? What can the community do? Because we're a pretty broad representation of this collective geek community that we're all a part of. And how can we support one another? How we can be our answer, instead of looking at what other people need to do, they still need to do it. What can we be working on ourselves? Because at the end of the day, that's who we have control most over, is ourselves.
I want to lovingly emphasize that the burden of breaking the system down is on the white majority. So I want to lovingly emphasize that
most
first.
Definitely.
I want to rebuke terms like, instead of focusing on that, because what we're talking about in this dialogue is not like personality defects. We're talking about oppression. We're talking about a system of oppression, right? So of course, let's talk about all the ways that we can support each other. But we are the change that we want to see, full stop. We are them. We just want to be there doing that shit. We want the mentors. We want the support. We want to be allowed to make mistakes. We want the space. So we are already that change that we want to see, and we want to see ourselves. We want to see more of ourselves. But I love dialogues about how we can support each other, how we can position ourselves better.
How can we build our own houses is more or less what I'm getting to, because instead of fighting for a seat at somebody's table, which we've, Ava's the queen of teaching us, like, stop trying to get at somebody's table and go build you a house. They're going to come knock on your door. I know, because a lot of us are freelancing, we're entrepreneurial, like we're doing things. And while I do think the burden is definitely on white people to remove the systems they put in place, full stop, 100%. I'm not into waiting.
I would say this.
We're going to have to do both. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Give yourself permission to build and grow both at the same time. It is okay for you to want to write for a big house, or to want to write for a big organization, or want to get your stuff in the Washington Post or New York Times, or have Spotify spotlight. It is fine. That is fine. But also, if I say to one more, where's your creator-owned stuff? Like, if I say to one more person, why are you not giving yourself permission to just, yes, this is going to be a notch on that resume. Yes, it is going to help you potentially get where you go, not because they're the end-all be-all, but because they have brand recognition. Like, they don't make you a great creator. You were a great creator when you got there, right? And I think that's something that systematically we have just got to internalize, and that's hard. That's asking for so much, because we got to get over everything else, all the imposter syndrome, all the whatever else we carry with us that was given to us, ancestrally, and go, let me build while I climb. If you look at these old creators that we all know and love, and these old writers we know and love, they were writing here, but they had a literary agent pushing their stuff over here. They were doing this comic over here, but they were like, yo, how about I sell my own joint and don't. And someone said this to me, and I just want to remind everybody, if you get hired to write a main legacy character for whoever you get hired to write for, that is not your character. You do not own them. You do not own that story. Yep. You walk away. Your name is on it, but you do not own it. It's not yours. And, I say this to say that many of the stories that we know and love come from an ancestry that is not the one in which it is being told through right now. Very clear. In the nicest way I can say that. And that we too have stories to tell, and those stories are important, and we should tell them. And no matter what level of artwork you're on, no matter what level of writing you are on, you're not going to get better. And again, I go back to this Larry Hama thing. He's like, you're going to suck the first time. and the second time and the third time and the 24th time, and maybe around the 500th, 600th time, you're not going to suck anymore. Larry Hama never wrote an outline. Larry Hama has 287 issues of G.I. Joe. He has never written an outline. He does not write like everybody else. Neither do most of us. And that is okay. Go and do your own shit. But don't sit there and like bank on the system to like end up being your cash cow. And regardless of color and background and race. I think that's for every creative.
And don't let them like force you to conform, right? Because they do a lot of that too. And that's the problem. That's a challenge that's happening with the book that I've been trying to publish. I've been getting a lot of no's because people say it's risky. There's no white counterpart to compare it to. So it's risky. Don't let people tell you that your work is a risk. I know there's an audience for the shit that I write. So they can pack it in, because I know people want to read what I'm putting out, and people will want to read what you're putting out because they can connect to it. And even that people that can't connect to it, they can find something that they like in it. But don't get anybody to try to get you to conform to a way or creating a state of being that is comfortable for others. And I think it's a good way to build community is to encourage each other to say, your work is valid. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'm going to support it. Like, I know I have the support. I'm thinking of doing a Kickstarter because if everybody thinks it's risky, I'm the only one that believes in it. Take a chance. Take a chance. Bet on Black. Bet on yourself. You know? So
yeah. I mean, and everyone has to understand towards that point, everything's a risk at least once, right? Everything from the biggest properties that have legacy of years of stories to the things that are brand new. It doesn't matter. So that myth of, oh, you're too risky is really just, that's another code for, oh, because you Black or you AAPI or you this or you that. Like, don't believe in that. Everything from the first steps you take, that's a risk. So are we going to live our lives without taking risks, or are we just going to forge forward?
The hottest franchises in the fandom were all risks that everybody dismissed, from Star Wars to Star Trek. All of them had somebody that came through at the last minute and said, okay, I'm going to make this, I'm going to make it on my own, or I'm going to come and use my producer cred to get Star Trek on the air. Somebody saved those shows from never happening,
And
shout out to Lucille Ball.
Lucille Ball, yes. And someone always says it's trash too. Like, nah, this ain't gonna work. Like, forget that. Like, keep going. Like, it's so important.
Twilight Zone sat on a shelf for 3 years before someone picked it back up because it was collecting dust.
Yeah.
The best thing that the community could do to support creative professionals is be their biggest hype man. I think as a community, if we hype each other up, it will generate like buzz and just notice for like, this is like, anything Angelique tweets or Val, I'm always like, oh yeah, I'm like hyping them up because it's like like for me, I'm like, they're amazing, and everyone needs to see how amazing they are. And I get a lot of follows because of the Asian community, and like I want everyone to see these beautiful women who are thriving. So I'm gonna like show off, hey, look my Asians, like look at these beautiful people, like look at them, and it's because I want, and like if we're each other's biggest hype men, I feel like we could. It'll just help us thrive more, and I feel like it creates a bigger sense of community too, and like that's how we're able to thrive. And also, like as creatives, if you have time, if you could do yourself, like if there's a person of color who wants it, like I'm an editor for the Nerds of Color too, and there's a lot of people who are writing for us, and I tell them, I'm like, I want to help you grow. So you could move on and be bigger and do bigger things, because that, like, I'm still freelancing, but I do a lot of other my work that I get paid for and like all this stuff, but I will make time just, to help little edits here and there, because for me, I'm like, if we don't, like, I need you to grow. I want you to grow. Like I have a writer who I edit all her work and I tell her, and I'm like, and any advice, I'm like, I'm gonna wait like 2 minutes. So I'm gonna let everyone talk, but it's like, we need to be there for them too. Even if it's like, 5 minutes of your day, like for one week or something. We have to be like a little bit of the mentor too.
Yeah. Like
okay, lightning round.
Right.
What's your ask of either the community or the industry? Give me one ask to support creatives. What you need, what you want. If you
Hispanic Heritage Month starts on September 15th, not October 1st. Stop reaching out to us halfway through. We know you don't mean it. And don't worry, we've gotten our own lists, our own panels, our own events. So we'll pass our own $10 around, and that's fine.
Alexa says, I know it's cap.
I got one. It is okay to celebrate Afro-Latinos during Black History Month.
There's called intersection. There's an avenue called intersection. There we go. Yeah, I had yelled it out because I was just so hyped. But share our content.
Most definitely
share our content. Like Laura said, like you see people in this space doing the work and doing good work, like RT them or quote or whatever. Like pull them into your timelines as well, into your groups of people. Say, hey, have you checked out this person? Have you seen their work? This is interesting. This is actually pretty cool, regardless of whether or not they fit squarely within your specific space, because I feel like that's how we've grown, and that's how we've been able to reach out to others to reach I don't want to say reach across the aisle. That's so political, but you know what I'm saying? Like just reach out to those that are not necessarily right in front of you. Like look at your periphery, because those are the same people who can help raise the tide, if you will.
Go Issa Rae, network across.
Yeah.
Right, network across. All right, that's pretty much our time. We got like 1 minute, but thank you guys for joining us, and thank you for the panel. First time at Wink Creative Conference. Woo-woo, hey.
Follow everybody here. Follow everybody
exactly.
here.
It's like we're dancing squares. But I appreciate you guys all coming through. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.